Thank you, Anand, for giving me this opportunity. And it's a wonderful context that you're setting here. What I want to bring to the table is a different thread on digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? That's great, but who will do that? So how do we create design mindsets to carry forward or develop or reimagine digital transformation? That's what my topic is going to be. From where I stand, I think being a designer and a practicing designer for the last 25 years and now in education, I feel very excited to be at this juncture of the technology, sciences, and design synergy. And digital transformation, as the word goes, gives us another opportunity to humanize technology. This ever-changing landscape that is happening every time we see something new in emerging technologies and a new way to handle or bring in user centricity, I think it's very important that academia and industry actually work in continual engagement. So almost hand in hand, sitting on the same side of the table. And I think we should consider ourselves as extensions of each other rather than being on the opposite side of each other. Technology has become so ubiquitous with our life that we often do not understand that there is a distinction, and we are looking at, therefore, humanizing technology, where it is looking at extensions to ourselves rather than saying that's a device and I'm interacting, and the human machine interaction is what is possible because of the device. So digital transformation has opportuned abstract concepts, is what I say. It's not about the bottom line, and it's not about certain figures. It's not about your growth plan and growth value, but it's about bringing efficiency, agility as an organization or your product or your services. Definitely adaptability. How can you be quick to adapt to a certain situation? And here I'm again talking about organization as a whole, and products and services and people, human capital as well. But what it brings to the table is compassion. And what I mean by compassion uh, is themes or constraints like sustainability, ethics. How does the user feel at that particular point? And that's what the opportunity digital transformation brings. And with all these abstract concepts as value bringing triggers, we need to be, as a mindset or a person that works in digital transformation, needs to be definitely user centric. So it's about, it also requires creative thinking, no doubt about it. I mean, thinking out of the box, thinking what we should do with future scope is important. But it's also important to be critical. What can I do in this time to make the user feel good and feel that he has been looked after, or his task is complete in XYZ, and you can go on. But to do the first two, we need to develop adoption strategies. So if you look at what COVID has opportuned us, I mean, we found large companies, FMCGs who were working with straight lace manufacturing, say, deodorant, quickly changed their manufacturing lines to use the same manufacturing lines to manufacture sterile equipment, or maybe doing sanitizing sprays, right? It was so simple, just sanitizing sprays. But the way they could be agile to adapt to what is the situation is what we need to draw from here. With that, I bring to show what should be this design mindset. So it does have some parts of thinking capabilities. It has to build sensibilities. We need to have some skills on us, and definitely need knowledge on certain aspects that is different and more wider than what we think is in a design stream. So thinking, the first thing you say, oh, a designer is supposed to have creative thinking and critical thinking, right? Well, that's That's true, but we also need thinking abilities on how do we quickly respond to a certain situation. We also need thinking abilities to have collaborative creativity. Now, the thinking pattern is also a mindset change. In design, even back when I started as a designer, it was always about learn to learn. We had to keep quickly adapt, and that now is a skill that we need to bring to the table to make our team adapt to certain changes that we have. When I come to sensibilities, I think this is a key feature and a key point that a design mindset brings to the table is how are we sensitive to people around us, to the user? What are the nuances we capture? Now, these are observation skills, no doubt, but I think today that is not enough because we are not looking at our user face to face. It's through a device or through a screen. It's important to lean on cognitive science. It's important to lean on behavioral science, figuring what's the decision map, what's the decision model, what are the behavior patterns, and what do we need to change and alter to be able to take our organization through digital transformation or take our users through this journey with us. And that's really the key. Well, the skills that we bring to the table are definitely communication. So whether it's communication between people, between devices, between devices and interactions, between devices in a group like connected IoT devices, those are also skills for us now. But we also have to draw from storytelling. How do we keep our users or the product engaged at every time, right? And of course, drawing, sketching, those are skills that are available and they can be learned over time as well. But an important skill that I think we also need to understand is how do you conduct scientific research and bring that to the table when we are starting and when we are looking at creating designs or solutioning when we start such projects. What's important is knowledge. Yes, knowledge which is not only limited to what and how we design, but knowledge about sciences, social sciences, uh, business models, coding. How do we know how to code? How do we understand what technology opportunities is all about? So I think the culmination of these four essential components can actually design a good mindset. With that, I think there are just four questions that a design mindset needs to ask. So why am I doing what I'm doing, which is really the problem that I'm trying to solve? Is it relevant enough? Is it urgent enough? And those questions can be answered here. For whom am I doing? Who's the beneficiary? So am I only looking at the end user? Am I looking at a stakeholder as well, internal, external? So those questions. What is very, very important is what if? What if this transformed into something else? So this allows our minds to look at a completely new solution rather than iterating a solution or redesigning a solution. So reimagination is what this particular question can facilitate. And lastly, how am I going to do it? So what's the technology available? What's the landscape? What is available to the users at hand? And how do I use my interaction design skills or my cognitive design skills or behavioral design skills to make this communication of what I started with how to, what I started with why, transcending this whole journey to the how. So design mindsets, to conclude, are definitely not as democratized as what we think they are. So design thinking has been democratized, I would say, and everybody wants to look at how to do that, how the mind thinks. But I think this part that I'm talking about is specific and is a deep skill of a design education. So there are some parts of this mindset we can definitely translate to our team which are non-design trained, but there are some which are very critical to an education that you do over graduation or masters, and it can't be at an online level. It's not a top-up game, but it's ground-up game. So I talked about abstract concepts that digital transformation allows us. And I think what I want to say right now are these 3 points. It allows us a sensory engagement, which means we are talking about experience. When I say I experience something, the emotion follows immediately. So what kind of sensory engagements I can look at to drive at a certain emotion, that this transformation at different critical stages I need. Like every time, it's not that I'm relieved. It could be that now I need to get somewhere, I need to do something. Even in business processes, there is always there is always, if you come down to the grassroots, an emotion um, um, detailed at every transaction, at every touch point in the business process. So sensory engagements to capture emotions or lead to emotions. We also need to make behavior changes in certain ways, that we are used to a certain way of working at work, and suddenly a business process changes the way we do. So yes, that is change management, but that's also how we make behavior changes. So how do we change our habits into a new habit? So what's the habit loop we use? So these are scientific concepts proven by research, and those help better adoption, whether it's technology, whether it's process change, whether it's service offering, and what have you. And the last and the most critical, I feel, in today's time with COVID, with the pandemic, with a very uncertain life and what we are doing to the environment around us, is sustainability. I remember people ask me, how is sustainability a question in digital arena? You're not using paper, you're not using plastic. Well, I feel that it's even more dangerous because we don't see it, right? We are putting in so much information, saving somewhere, but yes, there are server farms somewhere emitting some gas that is troubling the environment, right? That's one straight aspect of sustainability. But what I want to bring to the table today is uh, process sustainability. If we do not give the right check marks with leaning on science and testing, uh, the whole process is not sustainable over time. And that becomes a little concern when we work this for several years, for about 3 years, because we haven't looked at what behavior change, how is the person going to adopt to this, how long is he or she going to work with it. We tend to not look at these softer aspects, that they're not gyring, and that makes a product not sustainable over time. But if we look at that, then we bring in compassion. So system compassion, I think, is a word, and is something that we need to, all of us need to look at when we are dealing with digital transformation, whether it's processes, products, or services. Um, like to drive these large projects or small in their containment, what do we need? We definitely need generalist skills, somebody who knows his own or her own deep skill, but has sufficient knowledge into business, technology, and sciences as well. So those are what I call as solutionists. So with digital transformation, the technology landscape, I think we need generalists yet again. Yeah, we need specialists, definitely, but I think there is a lacuna, or there is a gap that we need today, which are digital solutionists. How do they look at all these complex opportunities, I would say, not challenges, and make good by designing them. So these are solutionists. They work in the area of coming up to proof of concept, POC, but we definitely need the deep skills. So what I mean by deep skills is, traditional, conventional design streams, which are stream specific, which is product design, which is visual communication, which is animation, which is probably interaction design as well. So these are deep skill specialists, and they would be required to deliver this or do justice to what the POC is. A solutionist would have an overall view of overall view of all these streams and other multidisciplinary domains as well, which is beyond design. And deep skills would really look at design streams and be proficient in some skill that they bring to the table. So to move ahead, we need future scopes design programs. One such is available, or we have offered it in our school, which is a undergrad program in humanizing technology. I'm just illustrating that to make my point. But what I mean is convergence of science, technology, business, and people into design is the key going ahead if you want to create solutionists. Now, if you want to create deep skills, of course, we'll have to change the combination as demanded by that particular skill. So what we need to understand is whether it's the industry or the academia, we have to stay relevant over time. And with that, both the parties need to be future scoped. So what I'm trying to say is to stay relevant, we have to work together, whether we are in academia or industry. And that's the synergy. And what I'm not talking about is not this one-time synergy, but I'm talking about sitting together. It's continual. So right from the Board of Studies in academia to just speaker sessions or being jury and doing industry-sponsored student project, I think we have to find opportunities or engagements that are more continual in nature. Okay, that are goaled to have a collaborative vision rather than a vision that looks for what's in it for the academia and what's in it for the industry. And that's the key that I'm trying to drive at. So definitely we need to get more research grants to work on this new aspect of design mindsets. How do we create them, or how do we enable products to lead on cognitive science or behavioral design or business values or business modeling and design? So a lot of multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary domain kind of research is something that we should look at, and we need research grants for that. I know Unity Technology and Adobe really brings an excellence center, so which means there is a software platform and there are excellence centers in schools, and they are driving at building excellence through the platform that they have. That's great, and we should popularize it even more. We should have more such excellence centers. But what I'm also looking at is innovation labs. So every company has an innovation lab, and whether academia and industry can work together and having an innovation labs seated at the academia where research culture is prevailed. So it's not research like we do in scientific research, but you also can do research where design and tangibility, intangibility, interactivity, interactions in VR is concerned. So we are looking at UX, and I know I'm going to stir away from the current slide, but I want to bring this point that we're talking about UX, and we've seen a decade of that happening. But that's in screen, right? Those are user interactions in screen, what the user feels in screen. But the minute you put on an HMD, you're transformed into something that is unreal. You can't feel. All the other senses that you naturally probe the world are different. And how does a user interact? So those kind of researches or innovations is what I'm looking at. Definitely hackathons are happening, but I think hackathons that lead to more a project in real time, which are used by the industry in question is what I'm driving at, especially here. Student project sponsorship, I think we do that even now. But what we could look at is, because of this volatility of what's happening around, I think it's important to co-own a course, co-own a program, and that in that way, I mean, if we get all these at a continual level. So I'm not saying everything has to be continual, but some have to be warm and some have to be cool. So some have to be instance-based and some have to be continual. If we get the right mix of these engagements, I think we can definitely stay relevant and be future scoped. And somewhere along the line, the catch-up game stops. So it's about what the industry wants and the academia needs to fit in, or create industry-ready students. I think that's not the only reason academia is there. Academia is also there to see what's future, and that's how we can work the catch-up game very quickly. But say 3 or 4 years down the line, we can start creating new knowledge that can be used by practitioners, right? So that's, I think, what would be exciting space to be in. But how do we drive this at the organizations level? So organization with design DNA, which I mean sensibilities or thinking patterns. Like I mentioned in my design mindset, there are some skills, some sensibilities that we can translate to the team, right? Which are non-design trained. And we can create the design DNA. And right from Procter & Gamble, which did that some years ago, it is proven that once we do infuse design sensibilities or a design mindset in the organizational cultural DNA, the results are very are seen. You know, you are more customer centric at every level. But this needs to happen at all levels and all teams. So one isolated team trying to drive design mindsets over the company, but takes a long time, does not, sometimes dribbles. It's not a pathway to success is what I mean. So sorry, what I mean is not a CDO, but a CXO level, definitely a design manager, UX, or just design research. But what I want to bring to the table is the rest of the profiles. You know, the profile, the kind of program we have at our school is creating about 25 individualistic designers. I mean, not individualistic in the sense that they work alone, but they have a key skill that they bring to the table, right? Not everybody is a specialist of the program, but can specialize in one part of the program. And that's very important in digital transformation. So whether we can offer profiles for a cognitive designer, a behavioral designer, a sensorial specialist who looks at senses and knows when to tap and how do you translate brands through these sensorial experiences, an experienced designer, so one who looks at definitely more than screen level interactions, but is looking at tangible, intangible, a more of a 5D experience than a 2D experience is what I want to drive at here. A data designer, and this particular profile is, gaining momentum. But if you look back and see, all our digital transformation projects have data in some way or the other, and this data is important and sometimes is as a service. So Google Maps is a data-driven product, and the visualization is the service offering in itself. So, sorry, that particular part is what I was talking about. And we do have interaction designers. And I think what I mean by, and why I put it here, is I think it's time that we need interaction designers who are specialists in certain technologies. So on-screen, IoT, VR are certain emerging technologies or prevalent technologies now. I can see, but there will be some more. And I think we need specialists of those deep skill profiles that I was talking about, who understand the technology, understand the user in that particular context, and then can translate their skills into doing these projects. So in conclusion, I feel digital transformation can reimagine, and I stress on the word reimagine, because we have to stay away from what digitization gave us. Digitization opportuned redesign, right? But we've come a long way from there, and now we can reimagine futures. We can reimagine what is the quickest and the most delighting way to do even a simple task. And that's what I'm saying. So definitely customer centric. They have to be agile to certain circumstances. I'm not even saying COVID, I'm saying just not having Wi-Fi for some time, what happens to the product, and it says cannot connect, right? It's a hindrance of experience, but this happens. And how do we make it agile in that sense of the word as well? They have to be creative, because we have to challenge the person who's using them, to saying, wow, that's not something I thought about for myself, but this is great. Adaptability. So how does different stream of consumers, because I said 1 second zillion users at one time, so which means you're looking at different strata of um, user groups as well. We can't always do it for a finite user group that we can test. So how can it be adaptable to different situations for users? Also, how can the value proposition of one particular product adapt to some other context? And the product portfolio can only grow. So adaptability can be looked at more ways than one. And definitely responsive experiences. And that's what the user has evolved to. We would like as users to have things happening real time for us, and where at least seemingly the user is in control, right? Seemingly it is customized for himself. So when we started ERPs, I remember I used to do graphic user interfaces back then. There was a word called customization, right? Now it is called responsive, where predictive technologies, AIs and MLs allow us to be responsive, right? I have actually not used the word smart or intelligent because that's a given today. So every product, every service we do needs to have some intelligence built in, right? But I'm really looking at the software, abstract concepts that we want to bring to the table, and look at technology as being compassionate to the task I want, the experience I want to do, experience I want to get from that particular product or service. So to do all that, we need a design mindset that employs a transdisciplinary approach. I mean, most of the times when I use this word, they ask me, so what on the earth is this? What I mean is we do have multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, which is two disciplines coming together. What I mean by transdisciplinary is to be able to synthesize information given so many multidisciplinary opportunities. So something that the business wants, something that the technology can opportune, something that the cognitive science is telling you to do or not to do, and something that the product design or the transformation exercise wants. And how can we now find out what's the best in this particular context and take the way ahead? And that's what I mean by transdisciplinary approach, which is deep rooted in sciences. To be able to be predictably successful is the word I want to use. So to increase impact or value. I've not intentionally used design skills that we have to know, because that is again a given. To do this particular landscape, to look at this landscape and to see this landscape happen real time, I think continual industry academia collaboration is the key. We have to deliver relevant program and create new knowledge simultaneously. So it's not about servicing the industry, but it's about telling, also foresighting what we can do. And that particular key strength is now at this point in time resting at the industry level. But some universities do have these collaborative innovation labs, and I think the time is just right for us to do that. Collaboration avenues, like I said, can be active or passive. They could be single instances, or they are active around a certain time, but a mix of that is the collaboration I'm talking about. And the last point, of course, is whether the industry and the organizations can offer appropriate job profiles, given that this is what digital transformation exercises. Any technology product that you want to build or offer requires these job profiles, like I mentioned, sensorial expert or a cognitive designer, behavioral designer, a data designer. Okay. I mean, well, you can also have an organ designer now, because that's what we are, the biomedical science is working in. And I think that's where we have to also work in the collaboration field. So that's my take on what digital transformation offers, what's the opportunity, what kind of mindsets we need, what's the collaboration we should have, and how we should take it ahead from strength to strength. So thank you for a patient listen. I'm open to questions